Welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers, your favorite digital and social evangelist podcast, with your industry veteran hosts, Michael Sandoval and Chris Tetzel. This podcast starts now. Hello, welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Sandoval.
And I'm Chris Detzel.
Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. How about you?
Good. I was going to think about something different intro because I always ask you how you're doing. And then one of the episodes you said, well, would there ever be a difference on what we would talk about? It's always going to be fine.
Yeah,
Well, I shouldn't just ask.
I guess it's been a disaster, Michael. Oh my God.
So I'll tell you something interesting, and I'm getting some. Okay, so you can help me, and I would like your opinion. So I am going to take a small trip over the next couple of weeks to Lake Tahoe, and I'm getting some pushback from my family, like, "Don't you know you're in the middle of a COVID?" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, they're kind of right," but I feel like I'm be okay. I don't know. What's your opinion? You've traveled during the COVID.
Yeah, my wife and I did just to Salt Lake City, and when we ate outside. We wore a mask where appropriate, but we did a lot of hiking, so there wasn't a lot of people around us. So I
Right.
think there's a lot of people going on vacations, my friend. Even I say a lot. There's some people going on vacations. I think as long as you're, you know, social distancing in the right way, and I mean,
Yeah, I just feel you can do that. I mean, I know I
there's people traveling on the planes. When I went to the airports, they were seemed really safe. You don't have to sit by a ton of people. Now, you know, let's be real. When you go into that airplane, they try their best, but you're still really close to people in lines and all that other stuff. So you know, that
ah.
look, I'm not gonna judge you. I mean, I would
No,
go,
it wasn't by judgment. It was
but
like I was just trying to like analyze
and
like what's a good
look,
thing and a bad thing.
I get what your family's saying. Maybe you take that into effect, but you're a grown adult, my friend. So
I know.
you can make your own decisions.
I was curious about your opinion.
That's my opinion. You're
Speaking
an
about new
adult.
things, how is your new community coming along? So last we talked, it was really fun because we were talking about like, hey, I'm getting a lot of good traction. I just had a good chit chat with legal, and things were kind of going just fine. Um, and that you were also developing some content that you were already ahead of the game because you had some good subject matter experts that you had already spoken to. Um, what's changed
Well,
over
yeah,
there?
yeah. I think so. Yes. I have some content, and I'm super excited. I think I have two blogs created. I'll probably have two or three more created next week. And the way I went to get that content was more from our training material.
Hmm.
There are videos, and I just used it and sent it to some blogger and say, "Hey, write some stuff around this." And the nice thing is on some of those training materials, because the PowerPoints and um, they're just very step by step, right? So,
Right.
that's actually good stuff to do that. Now, I did find, funny enough, a webinar that we're going to do around our free product. So it'd be my first time to be able to introduce community to some prospects and partners.
Interesting.
And
Are you
then,
going to do a tease, or are you just going to say this is what we're going to be doing?
well, there's two things to that particular webinar. One is I'll only talk 5 minutes about the community. So it's like
Hmm.
coming soon, community,
Oh, got it.
whatever, and
Hmm.
then the content is more of what that expert's going to talk about.
Hmm.
It's going to go in depth look of our free product to help people get through it and those kinds of things. And I thought I was going to have 4 weeks to do it, but I have to do it by Friday, this next Friday. So a week. And I'm like,
Well,
okay, how am I going to promote that? But I think, people, the cool thing is people come together, and I'm actually working with marketing and product team and
hmm.
then the sales team, all three, and at first there was kind of this pushback of, oh, you know, we all have things to do and I can't do this, because I gave it to them last minute, so it wasn't like their fault, but
Yeah, so not that you were expecting anything quick.
but no, I was
Oh.
expecting something quick, but then they came around. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
let's get this, and so that's still coming together, and it's kind of cool. Everything's fast and it's furious and it's pretty hard, but it's good.
How? What do you think is your biggest So this is almost getting into some discussions we had around engagement. So it sounds like you're starting to prime the pump, to use that term,
Yeah.
externally to some key individuals. Would that be fair to say?
Well, there's probably there's a few things to say about that. One is yes, because I think one of a key engagement tactic, or a strategy around engagement, is your content, and it's got to be really relevant and fresh for your users. So I think that's an engagement piece. It's obviously a content piece, but I think those two, in a sense, go together when you think of an SEO strategy and things like that. So that's one. Two, um, it's always about content, so let's be real, but um, I've reached out to some of our customer-facing employees
Hmm.
that deal with them, current customers that have our products, and also partners. So there's a partner success team, in a sense, and a customer success management team. So I've reached out to them to reach out to their customers to let them know we're going to have a community soon, and I need their help on getting content. So
Tell a friend. Tell anybody.
well, it's not just, hey, we have a community out. It's, hey, getting them to reach out to the customer to say something like, hey, we want you to be a founding member of the community. And
Yeah.
so we need your help. Can you answer these two questions? And I think I've mentioned this before, but question about if you had a peer that used our product, what would you say? And then, or what would you ask them for your help? And then two, since you own our product, what's a tip or trick, or whatever, to help somebody else? And so trying to get that content, and then I log in as them, post the question. So from a seeding standpoint, what I want to do is I'll have our CEO post the first kind of
Hmm.
message, if you will, to, or it might be our, it'd be one of our executives, doesn't matter. But and then I'll reply back to it, and then the first customer post. Then at night on that Monday, I'll have two posts a day for like 2 or 3 weeks is my goal, right? And then I'll find an expert to go and answer those. Then we'll do marketing. Anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to go into that, um, but basically, there's a plan to do the content seeding. There's a plan to do the marketing, both on email marketing, digital, in a sense, not digital marketing, but putting community on the digital sites,
Yeah.
and where there's traffic, and then we'll create banners and things like that on the other sites, and then more email. So
Yeah. It's interesting. In the way you were walking through it, and I'm looking at my own personal experience, like engagement. If I had a whiteboard, it's like I would put three big
yeah, I know
lines
you.
and
I
say,
know what you're thinking.
first one would be those would be the stages. One is birthing. The second one, and I hate to use that term. I don't know the other term. The second would be growth, and then the third would be maturity.
Hmm.
And like those are the three big things. And then under those would be what are the like the key engagement strategy you would use for each of those. Um,
Oh,
and then like that's one piece, and then there would be like a content element underneath, like where does that come from? So like the first engagement strategy is I heard a couple things, and so far I would agree with you because I've used these myself. One uh, is a scarcity, the scarcity tactic, which is um, be one of the first to know, or you're in a secret circle and we're starting something new. Wouldn't you like to participate? And
hmm.
it creates this sense of like there's only a few we're letting in, or whatever. Be the first. This be the first to know is such a lovely thing to work through. A founding mother. So you create maybe this. So that's one scarcity. The second one is you're special. Uh, you're one of our favorite customers. We've worked with you before. You seem to have a lot to discuss with us. Tell us more, that kind of piece.
Yeah,
And the content element would be, um, let's discuss this on a blog or put this onto a forum or send us some thoughts. Can we interview you?
yep,
The
done all
second
that.
piece is during
That's
the birth, during the growth stage. There's a lot of stuff I know that we've done before, and some other things some of my favorites were uh, uh, working with, like for example, in a past life, you would find subject matter experts,
yep.
and you would ask them to post a question. We would take information from our call center and use those as tactics. Or you would, and I think one of the things we were trying to do didn't quite work, but was to say, hey, just answer the customer, but answer them through the community and say, your answer has been posted here.
Yeah.
You can still respond to the customer via email, but you're just like, here's a link to the answer, right? It just happens to be on the community. Those are during growth. And I think in maturity, we've seen a lot of those, especially with individuals we talk to around affinity groups or getting them to be involved in using the points to drive themselves higher up into the echelon. It feels like,
Yeah,
at least in
absolutely.
my how I would structure that conversation would be like in that.
Yeah, to that last point, it would be more of, badges and,
Yeah, the badging.
ribbons and then levels
Yep.
and things like that. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to create that as well.
And then you have like these little, because you may have multiple communities now, you're driving different tactics at one time, and marketing plays a big piece of this too, right? I think even in like later part of birth or all of maturity, that's all just marketing, just pushing, 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 pushing. One of the things I know you talk about often is that's really elegant, but Higher Logic, you said they have like an automation system in the background. You can like this
Yeah.
could just in itself could just be almost automated.
Yeah, that's really the goal is you want to do as less work as possible on that kind of stuff. But so you do the upfront work at first to build those emails that need to go out from an automated standpoint. Now you have to have those customers already in there. So that's more of the challenge, right? So, you know, at this minute we're not, and this is something that I'm bringing up to our CEO and staff on Tuesday, is that our in a lot of companies like this is they're what I call digital self-help customer experience is disconnected in a lot of ways. And so to me, that's a big engagement strategy. One, not just for community, but for the overall self-help. Getting customers what they need quickly is highly important. So, the reason I say that is um, because we're not going to have like an SSO or enterprise search,
Mm,
into those at first. We'll have to build a strategy around how do we acquire customers through, a registration process. Most likely, there is an opportunity. So the higher logic, you know, uh, stuff won't work until you get those users in there, right? You can't
mm,
email people that aren't in there. But two, there is a potential to upload customers that have access to all of our other systems directly into the platform,
mm.
and then start emailing them and getting them interested in community. But there's potentially legal consequences or whatever, and so
Here, take a
I'm
service you never signed up for.
yeah. Well, I mean, if it depends, right? Like, so what's the risk? So I've got to evaluate. I'm talking to legal and security to say what are the risks that you have to go through to do that. But so to me, you know, the easiest way is to do SSO, and have banners in the places where they click it, they're automatically logged in, etc. That's the easiest way. But our issue is this: is we could do SSO today, but we also want to allow leads into our community. Well, there's no way for leads to create or have an account. Just you can't do that. So we have to figure out where to put those leads. It won't be in Higher Logic because Higher Logic, once you do SSO, you can't put into
Mm.
their main system. Does that make sense? And
Yeah, it
so
does. And
I
so
get
like
way too technical, but go ahead.
no, 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 and it's not technical. I have actually that like a flurry of questions started to come into my head. Maybe pull back a little bit if you don't mind.
Yep.
Um, so so on the subject of engagement strategy, I think I think if I may be so bold, it was more around like the tactic of those things, right?
Yep.
So one of the, and I'm not sure if it's engagement or um, activation.
What's both? Like,
Yeah, and I'm trying. That's why I'm deciphering. Is it because engagement? I see it as like you have people and you want to keep them active versus I don't have anybody in the community yet.
It's probably more activation. That piece SSO in the beginning, in the very beginning, is activation. So boom, they log in, they click it, and then they accept terms and conditions, and then they can join a community, right?
Mm,
And so, good.
so going back to my model of the three, maybe before birth, there's one that says just activation, like ground
Yeah,
zero,
yeah,
and then it's birthing, then it's growth, then it's maturity, and on activation, like when you're starting from zero, like how do you get people going? So the key thing there is on awareness, um, and trying to find birds of a feather, right? People who are very similar or talk in the same way. But just getting people in there, you're thinking, hey, how do I, if I don't have an existing infrastructure that I can plug into,
yeah,
how do I generate interest on kind of a little silo that's over here? I
yeah,
have to be introduced. And one of your methods is I can immediately take everyone who's created a login on my company and just create a login equivalently on the community. And then as they log in to the site, they would say, "Hey, here's a new community. Click here," and then you can automatically just roll them over.
yeah,
And that's an easy. I think you've even had a tactic in which, when they create an account, we've talked about one more little check mark that's we can automatically check mark it that says join our developer community,
yeah.
right? One step or whatever. There's ways to make that softer versus more implicit. And but the way but the last one you were describing is a way you were thinking about it because of legal.
Yeah, so there's 3 steps. One is that SSO, and then the second step was, if you can't do that, then the better, the it's kind of best, better, good, or good, better,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever it
good, better,
is.
best, yeah.
The best is what I just described before with SSO and stuff. The better is, hey, just upload those users, and then then you can start marketing to those, because already have those users, and I could do whatever I need to with them, and then get them to be activated. And you can do it through the platform and send all kinds of really cool emails or whatever through the platform, and I don't have to work with marketing. I could just get maybe some email templates or make my own up, and then they get them to clean it up or whatever. Um, or the third way is, and it's a big possibility that we have to do kind of the, not the best, not even the greatest, or better, but is you just truly start from nothing, and that's what I had to do at Imperva, and it's kind of like doing this is, you just start from ground up, and you just do some basic old marketing, and hopefully people start coming, and it,
You build it, they will come. Well, no, no, no. I think that's fair because then we got into the subject about the best way to activate is by having compelling content.
yeah, and that's it. Well, it's always compelling content no matter what the thing is, and so that I'm busy doing that as much as I possibly can, because, and I'm looking for content writers, and I tell them, you don't have to write it, you just have to speak about it, and we record it, and let's get in front of customers and speak about it. This way we're engaging, we're creating video, we're creating blogs, we're creating maybe even some Q&A, depending on how the conversation goes, because that's how I like to do it. It's way easier. Nothing's easy, but that's way easier than, let's record a conversation. Great, but this isn't for customer consumption or whatever. So now I've got to go send and I can only do the blog. I have no video, or I have no engagement. You know what I mean?
Blah
And
blah
so,
blah. Right?
well, you take what you can get.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no. I don't mean, I
in the
mean that nicely.
beginning.
Yeah, you're just kind of in this hole. You're like, oh, geez, fine. I'll take whatever you can give me.
Well, I think that's for every community leader, that's a one person team. I think that when you greenfield a community, Michael, in general, you're probably not going to have two other people on your staff.
No, you're not.
That it's just not going to happen.
No,
And so you have to do all these things yourself. And I want to do the best I
100%.
can. And I
100%
think,
agree.
and I'll say this, it's not just customer engagement that you have to think about, which is highly important, obviously. It's employee engagement at my level. And what I just mentioned, being a one person team, is I honestly couldn't do it without employees, right? Like, and so, I have to go find and beg and all that kind of stuff. But what's kind of cool about that over time is I'd like to promote people in a big way as much as I possibly can, whether it's
Yeah,
on
you do.
LinkedIn,
Yeah,
on
you do.
Twitter, on Slack. I like to point them out because they're the ones, doing that. And once people start seeing that, Michael,
It's like a
they
virus, I tell you.
others want to do it,
Yeah, because
now.
they want some of the glow.
Yeah, and I'm happy to give it to them. I
Yeah,
don't ca I don't need
I
any of the credit, you know, like,
100%.
I just need content,
Yeah,
you
and I
know?
think we even talked about this one time, like,
Yeah, we did, yeah.
the once you give someone some success, they show everybody, and everybody wants a little bit of that virus, and it becomes pretty viral. And what and I remember you doing this at Rexel. You did it very well, which was you gave props. You said, and you went on all the avenues. You were on LinkedIn. You would go on to the internal,
Yammer back in the
Yammer
day.
accounts and talk
That was
about
the
how
worst, but yeah.
you really drove the. Thanks for giving us conversation point. And they would get really excited, like, "Oh, thanks, Chris."
Yeah, because they deserve it. They're doing
They
something
do.
that they
They
normally
do really
wouldn't
deserve it.
do. I mean, they're taking time away from their full-time job because then they also see the value of community. They see the value of helping their customers and partners get the most out of it. And then you know what? They get value out of it because now, salespeople or CSMs or whoever can start sending links directly to this whole full page full of really good stuff on how to do these things on that one particular product. And so that's another thing we should talk about at some point is how do you curate content and what are
Oof.
some views
Yeah,
of that? Because eventually,
like,
look,
use
you
that.
have tons and tons of content on a community, and if it's just there, nobody knows how to get to it. Create some pages, create a place where customers and partners can get to that easily. Because you know what, that generates tons of SEO, actually more so than just one post. You know what I mean? Like it
Mhm.
will. I remember this one post, and you could call it engagement, but it's obviously content. Um, I posted this whole page. It was called Imperva Dam, and so there's this video that I put together how to deploy Imperva Dam, and then there's lots of Q&A that came from it.
Mm,
So I posted that,
yeah.
and then also some blogs. I don't post the whole blog. I'll just put the blog link
Well,
and then a little bit of blurb about each one. And same thing about the discussions in some of the videos. Within a month, SEO started picking that up quickly. That doesn't usually happen, like it takes longer than that. But
yeah.
also the naming convention is, Imperva Community Imperva Dam or whatever it was. The Imperva Dam is what really started popping up, and I was like, yes, I think I'm figuring this stuff out, you know. So, anyways, content. I don't know what it is, Michael. Content actually gets me more excited than anything. Engagement and stuff does too, but I have, I guess if you were to say what are some of my weaknesses, it's probably creating this whole engagement type of strategy, as in like uh, when I say digital badging and all that kind of stuff, it just stresses me out. Like super user programs, you know. I have ideas on how to do it and even start, but it's not as fun. You can't be good at everything, I guess is the point.
No, no, I think it's why we work so well together, because I those things I love to. You can tell I can almost pontificate about it in the
Yeah.
structure and how it works. Um, yeah, but no, you're very good at, and still are very good at strategy. I mean, at the content, and I think what's great about the content, it's immediate. You post it, Google sniffs it, and then like a week later, you're on the races, right? You're starting to get some traffic.
It can be, yeah. At first,
Yeah.
it's not like that, but once you start generating traffic to your community, that's when it starts getting really good.
Yeah.
It takes probably 8, 9 months really to from 0 to 8 or 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we've talked about the cycle, right? Before
It's
you're,
so cool to see, like when you start seeing year over year. It
yeah,
happened at Imperva, but it also Rexel because I was there almost 3 years. Is you could see like it was huge. It's like this kind of track up, and then in January, literally like January 15th, it was weird. You'd see
spike,
this thing
hockey
spike up,
stick.
and then it's going up again. Then the next year, it spiked again, like even more. I'm like, oh my god,
God,
it was awesome, and
it's
so
awesome.
that's year 2 and 3, maybe even 4, just really is whenever it starts to
I would
roll.
say I mimic that. I think in the other communities I've done, the first year's growth year, and it wasn't until like month 12, 13, 14 where you started to get, finally you can kind of let off, not left, but you can kind of like, okay, it's working.
Yeah.
You're kind of like doing this thing, and you get some
So you can
traction.
go focus on other parts of the
Yes,
community,
you
whether
don't
it's
have to be
engaged,
so much into the
hyper
activation
focused.
phase. Yeah.
activation and content. I'm
Mm,
not saying you don't always need content. You do, but my goal is to create one blog a week or more for the next year.
yeah.
You know what I mean? For the community. A blog is just longer content is how I see it, that is focused in on their product usage and stuff like that. With additional other things, videos and Q&A and stuff like that, but those blogs really help from a long, 1,000 plus words you get on there. That's really the goal, is to get that, and then that's really what helps it take off over time.
Yeah.
So
Well, Chris, I think we should end our little moment of fun today, but it was good talking about activation strategy. I think, as a summary, just kind of thinking about the phases that we had mentioned and almost this idea of activation piece. And for you, I think the favorite tactic on the activation side was, it sounded like here two. One was, you know, get your existing customers into the community as fast as you can. There's structures around that, SSO and the like. And the second was um, get some compelling content from subject matter experts that's currently in the zeitgeist and just write it out and let that kind of drive some first month behavior. I will concur to that. The quickest and easiest way is to get your current population of people onto the site, first and foremost. Um, and then I think the one that I added, but I think it was probably for the birthing page, was around um, exclusivity. Hey, get on people in the founding members, come on board, and you start talking about it externally. But um, we can expand on some other ones
yeah,
later.
yeah. Well, we have tons of other topics to talk about. So
Exactly.
this is this is a good one
Yep.
and very important. So,
Absolutely. Chris, once again, thank you very much. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Sandoval.
and I'm Chris Stetzel.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right, bye bye.